Hey everybody, it's Dr. Winnie, and I'm here with my next installment of Sunday Dinner. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. It's a little chilly out. It's better now. Early this morning it was freezing, but now it's gotten a lot warmer. So hopefully you guys are able to stay warm and all cuddled up with your family and friends. Okay, let's talk about today's Sunday dinner. I decided to make some fried pork chops for my family because my parents absolutely love pork chops, and we've been having them ever since I was a little girl. So I went out and I got some nice fresh pork chops, and I seasoned them with salt and pepper and garlic powder and onion powder and let them kind of sit out for a little bit. And then it was time to go ahead and fry them. So I dusted them with some flour, and I usually just put flour in a Ziploc bag and then put the pork chops in there and shake it up and then take it out. That's the way to get a nice covering without getting your hands so messy. So I did that, and then I fried them in one of those cast iron skillets, you know, those good old trusty dusty skillets that we all have and keep. And by now, after you use them a few times, they're nicely seasoned. And so I fried them up with that. And then once they were all fried, and my parents like them fried kind of hard. So once we got all of that done, I took them out and I poured off most of the oil that was in there. And then it was time to make a gravy. And I make the old-fashioned gravy, you know, where I put some cut up mushrooms, cut up onions in the oil and let it kind of fry down a little bit. And then I added flour. So I was cooking that flour with the mushrooms and the onions to create somewhat of a roux. And then once it was as thick and as brown as I wanted it to be, then I added water. So I deglazed the skillet with water and let it kind of come together and start boiling so that it made the gravy. So then I was able to put the pork chops back in and let it all kind of cook together and just be delicious. I wanted to serve this over garlic mashed potatoes. So I had some white russet potatoes that I peeled and cut up, and then I boiled them in just some regular old water with a little salt in there until they were nice and soft. And then once they were soft, and as you know, my dogs are here making their usual disruption. They were quiet all day until I started doing this. Quiet, quiet. Somebody's fighting over a treat. The usual. So once the potatoes were nice and soft, then it was time to make them into whipped mashed potatoes. And so I used some garlic butter, some milk, and some sour cream, and I used a hand mixer and got that all mixed together until it was a nice consistency, added a little salt to taste, and that pretty much took care of that. And it tasted fantastic. I love the using garlic butter, which just gives it such a nice taste. If you don't have that, you can, of course, just put in plain old garlic powder or even some fresh garlic, and you'll get that same effect. So that took care of the mashed potatoes, and then I wanted to serve them green beans. That's one of my parents' favorite vegetables is green beans, and so I had those snapped last night by hand, and they were ready to go today. So what I did was I cooked some bacon, and I like to cook my bacon in the oven where it's nice and flat. You know, I just kind of do a light broil until it's ready, and then after that I can take the bacon out. The strips are nice and straight, but then I use that oil that was retrieved from the cooking, and I put that in a Dutch oven, and I was able to get some fresh garlic. I've got this little garlic crunch machine that I just love, and so now I'm doing a lot of fresh garlic instead of the jarlic, you know, that everybody uses where it's already minced up. It just seems to taste a little fresher, but that's how I did that. So I cooked that in the oil and got it sort of nice and fragrant. Then I added the green beans, and then put some spices in there, salt, pepper, some pepper flakes, and also the cut up bacon, and then some chicken broth. Brought it to a boil and then let it simmer for about an hour to get it nice and soft. I don't like it too mushy, but I don't want it too crunchy either. I don't mind crunch, but I know my parents don't want it that way. You know, the longer you cook it, the more you lose the vitamins, but it does need to be palatable. So that was pretty much the dinner. Then for dessert, I decided to make a puff pastry-based cherry tart. And believe it or not, this is actually really, really simple. It just involved getting a nice puff pastry, laying it out, then getting the recipe called for cream cheese or cheesecake filling. I didn't have cheesecake filling. I tried a million stores. None of them had it. So I had to make my own. And that was just using some soft cream cheese and then putting some powdered sugar in it and also a little vanilla flavoring, whipping it all up. And voila, I had the filling for cheesecake. So I put that down on the puff pastry right down the middle. And then I got some cherry pie filling, just the kind right in the can that you get from the store, and put that on top. Then I made little lattice cuts along the side of the puff pastry, and then folded it over and cased everything in, and then covered it with an egg wash. And what this did was really help to give it that nice pretty glow. And then on top of that, I used some crystallized sugar so that it would have a nice pretty sweet and glowy look. And I stuck that in the oven and cooked it for about 40 minutes. Came out great. And I know my family's going to love that. And so then, of course, I had to make some vanilla ice cream, which I've done many times. And, you know, that's a real straightforward recipe. Just whipping up 2 cups of heavy whipping cream until you get those nice stiff peaks, and then pouring in a can of sweetened condensed milk, and then putting it in a little vanilla extract, mixing it all up, and bam, put it in the freezer. The next day you've got fabulous vanilla ice cream. So that was Sunday dinner for today, and I know my family's going to absolutely love it. So let me take off my chef hat and put on my doctor hat for just a moment. I just want to talk with you about a service that I offer here in my practice that I get a lot of questions about, and it's the male sexual rejuvenation services that I offer. You know, guys, as they get older, start to have some difficulties. It's not at all unusual. It's not their fault. It's just one of those things. And it can be age-related. They may have difficulty achieving and maintaining an erection, or having premature release when they're having sex. All of these things are very frustrating, embarrassing, cause problems. And that is a huge part of my practice, helping men with the treatments that I have. And I've got several, and they really work great. And they also work even better when they're done all together. You know, with an erection, it's blood flow and nerve function. That's really what's at play. And of course, there's the emotional component, which is always going to be a potential issue. And I actually have something that I use to treat that as well. But I have a couple of procedures that many of you all have been hearing about, and you may have questions about. And, you know, anytime you want to know more, I have a webinar that you can watch. All you've got to do is just call the office, and we'll send a link so that you can watch the webinar where it goes in more detail. The office number is 281-547-8870. And essentially, I offer 2 injections. One is called the King Shot. The other is called the King Cock Shot. And I essentially use exosomes, which are these little vesicles that are harvested from donors, and they stimulate the release of stem cells. Back in the day when I first got started, we were using PRP, which is platelet-rich plasma. And that's when we draw blood from you and try to harvest those growth factors and platelets from your blood. But as we get older, that number drops. And so it's much safer in terms of getting the volume that you want of improvement with the release of stem cells to use exosomes. And these are completely safe. I've been doing this for quite a while now. I was trained by the guy who actually invented this, and we've had some really great results from that. Now, the King Cock Shot involves the use of Botox. And, you know, Botox is something you use to get rid of wrinkles, get rid of headaches, and a lot of other applications. But we also use it in the penis because it helps to open up blood vessels, encourage blood flow. And some guys even notice an increase in the length of their penis while that medication is on board. So there's a lot more to know about it, but those are the 2 procedures. And then I have an IMSILA chair, which is a fabulous chair that you sit on for 28 minutes, and you'll do 16,000 Kegels, which are those exercises that help tighten the pelvic floor. Really good for guys that are having problems with premature release. I've been able to help guys tremendously with that. Totally painless. And by the way, those shots are painless too, because we numb you up really, really well. Guys usually look at me and say, when are you going to do it? I'm like, we're done. You're all good. So the IMSILA chair is fabulous. Hormone replacement is also very, very helpful. And we can draw your blood. Your insurance will cover it. And we can take a look at your hormone levels. Because if your testosterone level is low, we got to get that up. And we do that very effectively here in the office as well. So this is just kind of a shortened version of the services that I offer. And I'm actually getting ready to offer a new product called Cell Factors, which appears to work even better than exosomes. But the exosomes are the bomb. They really do a great job as well. And again, if you want to know more about this, just call the office. You know, I don't just treat men that are having a problem. I treat guys that are really not even having a problem, but they don't want to have a problem. You know, you can look at these services as not just erectile dysfunction treatments, but also rehab treatments and preventative treatments, rejuvenation treatments for guys that are in their 40s and 50s or doing okay, but they just don't want to run into trouble. It's way better to keep it going going rather than try to fix it once you're not having the performance that you were hoping for. So even if you're not in full erectile dysfunction mode, it's a great idea to go ahead and start getting rejuvenated so that you don't run into those problems. And then finally, I have these little, they're not really pills. We call them troches, but it's a little medication that's soft, dissolves under your tongue or in your cheek, that has a very high dose of tadalafil and also a couple of other ingredients, apomorphine and oxytocin. And what they do is they cool you out. They make you feel relaxed. So any anxiety that you're feeling when it comes to sexual performance is greatly improved. So as you can see, we've got a lot of tools in our toolbox, and we care about our men. We want you guys to be the kings that you were made to be and to be able to perform like the kings that you were intended to perform as. So again, if you have any questions, just call the office. The number is 281-547-8870. Okay, you guys, take it easy, and I'll see you next time on Sunday Dinner. Bye-bye.